going to keep it rolling with Miss Dr. Shaunna Gold. And Shaunna and I met years ago. She was competing in the Miss Virginia pageant. I was doing consulting. One of my first businesses was communication counseling. So we met back then. And I remember Shaunna posting in Facebook last year, before the boot camp last year, around that time, saying, well, I want to come to the boot camp, but I just had a son. So clearly that needs to be my first priority. And I don't remember if I posted or not in reply, but I remember her, when I saw that, I remember thinking, that should be the reason. So then when I saw that she didn't come to boot camp last year, this is her first boot camp, but then she decided to apply for Accelerate. Why don't you tell us, again, who you are and how you came to that decision?
Once again, my name is Shaunna Gold, Dr. Shaunna Gold. I am the founder, owner, director of Gold Doctoral Consulting that I started not even a full year ago now. But when I started thinking about how I wanted to get more training, get more experience, just get around the right people, I started looking at the boot camp. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I prayed about it, and I thought about it, and I talked to my husband about it, and I prayed some more about it, and then I said no. And I made the biggest cop-out ever. I was the one that decided no. Whatever excuse you can think of, I had it. I probably had a few extra on top of whatever excuses you can think of. And then the applications, or at least the call for Accelerate came out, and I did the preview call. And I started thinking about it, and I even filled out the application the first time, and then I looked at the price tag. And I said, oh Lord, we have a mortgage. We have school loans that are practically a mortgage. My husband has a terminal degree as well. We have $15,000 in daycare every year. I was thinking about all of these different price tags that I had to figure out how to sort out and prioritize and organize. And so I said, okay, well, I'll just put the application in the shredder and forget about it. And so then the call came up again, because y'all know Marshawn is persistent. And so the call came back up again, and I said, okay, well, I'll listen to the call, listen to the recording again, and pray on it again, and maybe it'll work out. And then I filled out the application again. And every time I filled out this application, I filled it out 3 times and shredded it 3 times. And each time I filled it out, I've had more clarity as to why I couldn't say no to Accelerate. And I realized the mail was sitting on the kitchen table that I hadn't checked from the day before. And it was my TIA CREF statement of how much money I had in my 401k. And so when I saw that piece of mail, I was like, look at how much money I had. And so I opened up this envelope, and I had a decent amount of money because I've been in higher ed for a good bit of time. And I said, okay, well, this money has been rolling over. I haven't even been checking it or anything. I just see that this money's been rolling over. Ooh, I have $10,000 in this account. And so I didn't even ask my husband. I just filled out the withdrawal paperwork and turned it in. I said, oh my God, this might be like a divorce. Wait, I'm going to need my sister to help me put my relationship back together after I fill this paperwork out. But anyhow, I filled the paperwork out, the application went through, and there I was enrolled in Accelerate. And so for me, the decision was extremely hard, but when I thought about how I made investments in 2 different entities in my whole life, and it always worked out. Wow. When I made an investment in myself and my hard work, and when I made an investment based on what God can do. So whatever I had and whatever I lacked, I knew that God was going to make up some kind of way. I don't care if I was paying Marshawn $1 a day for 10,000 days. I was going to make this payment. No, but seriously, I just knew that there would be a way to make up for the lack. And so truly, it was kind of a step out of the boat, walk on water type of moment, and I just had to step out. And I made that decision, and I thought about every time that I made a step out of the boat decision, and I never drowned. And so this was one of them.
So since you floated, tell us how long you floated. Tell us about what the program itself has been like, the live masterminds, and also the strategy sessions, because you have that, I heard it right now. When I get on a strategy call with Shaunna, I say something, there's a pause, and she goes, yeah. And then it comes forward, she's such a PhD. So tell us about what was going on in those in those, yeah. Tell us about the strategy session.
Well, I have another sister friend somewhere in this room that's also a PhD. There she is, hey sweetie. And so PhDs often think they know everything. And so when I came to this Accelerate program, I said, okay, I paid this money. I want to hear something I don't know. It better be good, Marshawn. I mean, you better throw it down for real in this program. Because I wrote this big check and risked my relationship with my husband. You know, I'm just thinking about all these reasons, you know, that we already know everything. And so I show up to these sessions, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, this is exactly what I needed. I needed someone to break me out of the tradition that I had been in for a very long time. And the piece that was most important to me, and we were just talking about this, Judge and I were just talking about this, how we have felt for a very long time, I'm not going to put words in the lady's mouths, but I have felt for a very long time that I was kind of that outlier. If anybody's read Malcolm Gladwell and you think about that outlier, you know, that irrational, you know, dancer on the screen that's like, whoa, you're completely out of the tradition. I've always felt that way. I tried to recall a time where I didn't feel that way and I couldn't figure it out. And when I came into this program, I figured out, oh snap, we got 10 outliers in here. You know, all of us have been the crazy ones that had the crazy dream that, oh, well, I'm gonna do this, oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire, oh, I'm gonna do this, that, and the other. Nobody believed it except for us. And sometimes we were so scared of our own dreams that we didn't share them with anybody else until we got to Accelerate. And then we started saying things in sessions that we hadn't heard ourselves. We had heard them in our minds. We had not heard ourselves speak them to ourselves. And so when we did, you know, that's when the tissues start coming out. You know, we start experiencing this ceiling, I don't even want to say ceiling, more of a box that we started breaking out of, and we finally got rid of this box. And exactly, lifted the ceiling, got rid of this ceiling so that we could grow and move to a different place. And so those sessions were really, every time it was a breakthrough, it was, oh, I thought I knew everything, but oh snap, I don't. You know, this is something new that I need to take action on right now.
So the community's been good for you. And the strategy sessions, you really are really good about booking your strategy sessions. So what about what you've been able to implement and do and accomplish, and the program that you were able to launch, and how you made your investment back really quickly?
Well, the strategy sessions are so good for me. Even just filling out the map form that basically talks about what are your objectives for the call, what have you done since the last time we talked. And one thing that I don't like doing, I don't like saying that I'm going to do something and then I don't follow through on it. So if I write it down on that form and it gets to Miss Marshawn, you better believe the next time we talk, I have checked it off the list, period. And what's so gratifying about that is Marshawn always says, LaShawn, I'm so proud of you. Angie, I'm so proud of you. Remember, I'm so proud of you. And that's satisfaction to me. You know, in addition to seeing my son's face, that is satisfaction. You know, hearing someone say that they're proud of you, how many of us get that kind of validation regularly? At all. Let me say at all. I didn't until I was in this program. So I started getting that type of validation, and then you realize, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm doing the right things. I'm in the right place at the right time. And so the investment that I put in, I just took that leap of faith, and I actually started my first boot camp for doctoral students called the Doctor's Prescription. And the Doctor's Prescription program was basically, I sat down one night and I thought about all the things that I wish somebody had told me before I could apply to a doctoral program, and how to get through as quickly as possible without spending too much money. And so I created this entire program. I turned it into, originally it was a 12-week program. Charged a very high price point. I was uncomfortable with the price point, but people were coming out of the woodwork trying to figure out how they were going to pay me this money, which was awesome. And they did.
Tell us the price tag.
It was $2,500
For students.
For students. And those students started coming out of the woodwork because I believe I made it very clear to them. I just broke the math down. As we would say, break down the arithmetic. I broke down the arithmetic of, if you spend this one-time investment with me and you continue and persist, look at how much tuition you're going to save based on how much you invest with me one time. So for example, I got my PhD from George Washington University in higher ed administration. Every semester at that private institution in a doctoral program was $16,000. So $3,000 doesn't sound that bad when if I had continued and I didn't have some of the skill sets that I needed to get through quickly, I could have paid double what I paid for my doctorate. So when you start breaking down the numbers of this is how much you will save, this is how much you need to invest in yourself in order to make sure that you're not spending too much time or money getting something done. And so anyhow, I put together the boot camp.
I just want to pause 1 second. One of the things that Shaunna is saying that's really great is, and we work on this in the program, is figuring out how you make your value proposition to your audience. We've worked a lot on ideal client profile. Some of us think, well, our clients don't have any money. And the initial thought would be, well, PhD students don't have money or resources to invest. That's little me saying you can't do that. And so we really work together to figure out what's the right value proposition that will be the most successful, what will work. And she did an excellent job because when she launched this program, it was initially 12 weeks. And how many people were you initially able to take into the program?
Initially, my goal was only 15 people. And then when I had a strategy session with Marshawn, she said, well, wait a minute, why are you limiting yourself to 15 people? If there's money on the table, go get it. But what I found was she was exactly right, that I was putting too much of the onus on myself of saying, oh, you have to be the teacher, the one-on-one teacher. And in fact, it ended up turning into more of a mastermind setting where the doctoral students were feeding off of each other. All I had to do was create the environment and the space and guide them and be the steering wheel for them
work
to drive
less,
their
make more.
destination. Yes.
Kind of a good formula.
After that, so that was the original boot camp. Now I'm enrolling students into the current boot camp for the fall, and one of the things that I got that was the best feedback ever was that they don't want 12 weeks. In fact, they're willing to pay at the same price point for 6 weeks of work. 6 weeks of work. So listening to my target audience and what they need and what they can afford the price point. They couldn't afford the amount of time that I thought they needed to invest. And so we squished it into 6 weeks, and now we have more and more people enrolling.
So you started with 15. We worked on how, and one of the things that's really important is leveraging your time. Sometimes, especially as women, we put caps on ourselves because we still have a lot of other responsibilities. So you want to figure out how to restructure your business so that you can leverage your time, and Shaunna did an excellent job at that. How many people did you end up letting into your very first teleseminar program ever?
My final number was 32 students.
32 at $2,500 a piece for 6 weeks worth of work. So I know some of you are out there getting your calculator. 3,200 times 25, 32 people times 2,500 in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And just finally, what was your goal when you came in? I remember that initially you were saying, I can't do this because of my son, and then you were like, I just want to make sure that by this summer, I can do what for my son?
My goal by the end of summer, well, I had 2 goals actually. My 2 goals were to pay myself back the $10,000 that I paid for my program, number 1. And number 2, my second goal, as we mentioned before, I wanted to make sure that my son's cruise, 10-day cruise, Disney cruise, was booked for his 2nd birthday. He turns 2 in March, and the cruise is already booked and paid for. All by the grace of God. That's what I wanted to do.
And
now,
grace attaches to action. I just want to acknowledge that for a moment. I want you to get that. That otherwise we would be spoiled if we weren't doing something. And so when we do something, then we get to see a greater level of what can be done, because then you're working in partnership. So grace does attack. Grace comes unmerited, but I do believe favor. I should say use the favor, because I believe grace is totally unmerited. But favor, I believe, favor has favorites, and it favors certain action over others. So let's hear it for Ms. Shaunna. Oh, one other question, Shaunna. What stage were you at, and what stage were you at when you started, and what stage are you at right now?
Goodness, I don't even think I had a stage at that point. I had a business license, and I just bought my website, and literally that was it when I applied to the program. So I was literally running on a dream and a prayer, literally, when I came into Accelerate. So
where are you now? Where are you now?
I'm skirting on the edge of influencer. I'm flirting with influencer. If we're going off of a dollar amount, but I think for me, the program has been so instrumental in helping me to fine-tune a voice that can be heard by my audience. I think I've consistently had a voice because I've been in higher ed for a good bit of time, but I really did have to reinvent myself from somebody that's working for the University of da-da-da to Shaunna, the entrepreneur.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome. Here's for Shaunna.